How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today, I wanted to talk to everybody about just something really interesting I saw. So this article came up, and this was called "A Generational Tug-of-War is Hampering the Housing Market and Limiting Buyers' Options." And this article really caught my eye, and I just wanted to share this with everyone here and talk about it for a few minutes. Home buyers in today's market are increasingly faced with an inconvenient but inescapable truth. There are fewer homes for sale, and the ones on the market are often in need of big repairs and renovations. That's because far fewer homes have been built since 2008 that needed to match demand. Since 2008, then needed to match demand. And a lot of existing homes were built decades ago, often to different standards. Meanwhile, those owners have either not been able or willing to keep up with maintenance costs. You have seen this obsolescence that is starting to accelerate. A lot of those homes have to be gentrified or raised. A recent report from home improvement company Leaf Home and Morning Consult found 73% of baby boomers have been in their current homes for 11 years or more, and over half own homes built in 1980 or earlier that have never been renovated. A majority says they have no plans to do so either. So the housing market is caught in a generational tug of war. Boomers will soon face aging in place hurdles, while millennials will face the surprise of homes in need of major upgrades, says John Bostock, CEO of Leaf Home, in a news release announcing the findings. With an aging and ignored inventory of homes available in the next decade, we may see a crisis that will overwhelm the home improvement industry and strain the budgets of inheriting millennials, impacting the housing market. So, and then it goes on to say basically homeowners are staying in place longer. A recent Redfin Corp report found the length of time people stay in their homes has more or less doubled since 2006. And that year, the median homeowner spent about 6.5 years in a home, which grew to a peak of 13.4 years in 2020 and dipped to 11.9 years in 2023. About 56% of baby boomers have lived in their homes for at least 10 years, according to the study, while about 35% of Gen Xers lived in their homes for at least 10 years, and just 7% of millennials stayed in their homes for 10 years or longer. The homes older Americans own also tend to be larger. A separate Redfin analysis found empty nester baby boomers own twice as many 3-bedroom plus homes than millennials with kids. So why are boomers staying in their houses longer? Well, they have no incentive to leave. More than half, about 54%, own their homes free and clear without a mortgage, and a monthly median home ownership costs of roughly $600. So nearly every baby boomer that does have a mortgage has a much lower interest rate than today's rates, hovering around 7%. Often, older Americans and those who have lived in their homes the longest have tax advantages. In some places, property taxes are waived or rates are pegged to the year they were purchased, incentivizing long-term residents. All those reasons and other factors have kept housing inventory at historically low levels. So then it goes on to say that basically you have constrained inventory means higher home prices. The prolonged lack of inventory has also led to higher prices, and that puts first-time home buyers in an even more difficult spot. Even if they can get somehow into a home they can make the monthly payments on, they can't make enough to save for a down payment. While I do see us going back down to maybe 3% interest rates as rates do drop, I don't see that. Demand will likely increase and lead to a resurgence in buyer interest and competition. But there is an expectation that mortgage rates will come down at some point in 2024. Maybe not. Once rates get closer to what people have on their existing mortgages, supply will enter the market. But I think this article brings to light a couple of very just interesting facts here. So you do have this tug of war between the generations. I mean, you got the baby boomers, the Xers, and the millennials all kind of in the housing market. And if you're shopping for a house right now, obviously it's very expensive. You got home prices are still staying very high. Home values are actually continuing to go up in a lot of parts of the country. And you have high inflation which is driving up the cost of like property taxes, insurance, utilities. You've got higher interest rates right now. So, I mean, everything is just more expensive. The cost of the house, the cost of the mortgage, the cost of the utilities and the payments just to own the house. So a lot of the costs of home ownership have gone up. And at the same time, you've got, baby boomers don't really have a reason to leave. And here's the other thing. So if you're the baby boomer, if you're say like you're 75 or whatever, right, and you own your house, you have no mortgage, your cost of living there is relatively low. Say it's like $600 a month, and say you've got some retirement, you got some security and stuff like that. Well, you're going to try to stay in that house as long as you possibly can, because the minute that you leave there to go into some kind of assisted living facility, you're going to be spending a fortune, man. I mean, those assisted living facilities are no joke. I mean, you're talking about, some of these places can be anywhere from like $3,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on, how luxurious it is, what type of care you need. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I mean, a lot of these places are crazy expensive. So, you're going to do whatever you can to stay in that house. Now, at the same time, they're sitting in these houses and they're not upgrading. They're not upgrading these houses. They're not repairing a lot of things. So, and you are seeing this phenomenon. It's something that I myself noticed a couple of years ago when I was looking around at houses, and I kept saying, I noticed that, basically the worst house on every block was the one that was coming up for sale. And I kept sitting there, like I drive down the street and you're like, why isn't that house for sale? Or why isn't this house for sale? I love this house, or this house is gorgeous. This house is beautiful. All the best houses are not being sold because those are the people that are taking care of them. The ones that are being sold are the ones where, like, somebody just passed away, somebody got divorced, but somebody didn't take care of it. And now, okay, you buy that house, but then you got to go in, you got to renovate it, you got to put a lot of costs and expense into that thing, and that may be fine if you're going to stay there for, if you're going to hang out in that house for 10, 20, 30 years, and it may be perfectly okay. But if you think you're only going to be there for 6 or 7 years, the cost of doing all that may not prove to be worth it. So it's just an interesting, like I said, there's just a lot of interesting tidbits here on kind of what's happening and what the potential outlook could look like. I've said this before, I still will say this again. I do not think that interest rates are going to come down as much as people think they are. Do I think that eventually rates will come down? Yes. Do I think they'll come down a lot here in the next 10 months in 2024? I do not. As a matter of fact, if you guys go and watch my banking update, which is like kind of like the main weekly show on the channel, if you go see that this week, I talk about how basically that a couple people just came out on CNBC and basically said that they feel like the interest rates are not going to move at all in 2024. There's not going to be any decrease. So and again, we'll talk about all that and we'll get into that. Like I said, check out the weekly update episode and we can talk a little bit more about that. But like I said, just some very interesting challenges here, some interesting things that are going on in the housing market right now. And we'll have to continue to monitor this and see what happens and see where we go from here. But like I said, it is interesting to note, and it is interesting to see how these things will play out. So like I said, if you like this episode, please give a thumbs up. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. That always helps the channel. Make sure you can check us out on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. And please make sure to go check out some of my other episodes on the channel. And I will be back to talk to everybody again real soon. Thanks a lot.